In the next edition of It's About Money, my guest will be Robert Russell, and he is the president and CEO of the Rochester Hearing and Speech Center. This year, the center celebrates 100 years of helping people, and Bob is here with us to discuss this huge accomplishment. So join us in the next edition of It's About Money. Hello and welcome to another edition of It's About Money. I'm Nanette Nocan and thank you for joining us. It's my pleasure to have Bob Russell, join us in today's show. He's the president and CEO of the Rochester Hearing and Speech Center, and they're celebrating their 100th anniversary. So thank you, Bob, for joining us in our program.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Nanette. Good to see you.
So tell us a little bit more about the center. I mean, 100 years, right? So that's really great of serving people in our community. So tell us how you got started at the center and tell us a little bit of history.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing as a not-for-profit to be able to say that you're celebrating a 100th anniversary. And, you know, we've said this year, it's not just about telling the story of the agency, but it's also telling the stories of the people that we've been able to serve. And that's the real reason why we've been here for so many years. We really started out as an agency. It became a community initiative to help with speech impairments and working with children and working with adults who are experiencing different impairments, and eventually hearing, because they are so close together, was brought into it. And we've gone through a few different names over the 100 years, different locations, but we're now, a member of the El Segal community of agencies. And Segal is celebrating their 60th year. So they like to say, yeah, you definitely look older than we do. But, for us, it's about we're serving everyone from newborns to seniors and everyone in between. And it's been an amazing ride for me just to watch the impact that our agency has for people's lives and the quality of life that they had, and really helping them to learn how to communicate for life. So we have 3 locations now where, our main location is at the Golisano Center at the El Segal Community of Agencies. We're also located out in Greeson and Webster. So we're seeing everything from children, starting from newborn age, especially through preschool, to be able to help them with any speech, physical therapy, occupational therapy needs that they have, to help them really prepare to get into a classroom setting, all the way through to seniors who are coming to us because they're having hearing loss issues. And unfortunately, in today's world, hearing loss is affecting people at every age. So we keep seeing that our clientele is getting younger from that standpoint as well. But to be here for so long is really a testament to the people that, I get to stand on their shoulders that came before me, and then just the thousands and thousands of people whose lives we've been able to affect.
That's amazing. So the little ones, is it like self-identification or referral from the physician? How do they come to the center to say, we need help for our little one here?
Yeah, it's really comes from different places. Physicians are one aspect where they see it. Also, kids might be in preschool or daycare centers, and it's recognized that they might have some sort of a delay. Usually the parents are the last ones that notice something, because I think it's kind of gradual for them and they're not quite sure unless they have older siblings that they've gone through this with. So we really receive referrals from all different areas and through the state and through the city school districts. And it's really for us about being able to help those children, again, get the tools that they need. Some children may come to us because they're nonverbal, and that's where the parents notice it. So they might have a year-old, a 2-year-old, and they just don't feel that they're at the level that other children that they've seen or other children in their family are at. And it's the most amazing thing to see kids when they first come in, that first, couple of weeks, to see where they are. And then 6 months later, the progress that they've been able to make, or hearing families talk about the fact that their child couldn't communicate with them. They were frustrated because they didn't have an opportunity to really say how they were feeling or what they were needing. And then to watch that progression with them has been, it's absolutely amazing. It's one of the best parts of my job, is to see the kids and the way that they're able to adapt and really, again, get rid of some of those frustrations that they have learning how to communicate with those around them.
I see. So the center helps diagnose and then also provide the tools that's needed to help overcome.
Correct. Yeah. So we do a lot of testing, and again, both from the speech side, but also from the hearing side for children. And then for us, it's really, it's very difficult for parents. And I went through this with my daughter Madison, who needed physical therapy, occupational therapy, because there's so many different people that you have to try and talk to. And for our agency, we really try to bring people in. And, once we've earned their trust, we want to be there for them through the entire journey. So it's not unusual for us to be working with children for 3 or 4 years, but also because we've been around so long, we're working with 3 and 4 generations of families, which really tells us that, we've earned their trust. We've been able to help them. And as their needs continue, they come back and they're able to turn to us knowing that we'll be there for them.
Yeah, that's great. So what are some of the difficulties that those with speech or hearing challenges face? I think about the money side challenge if you can't communicate, but what would you say are some of the challenges and lost opportunities?
I think for when you're starting with children, it really affects their education. Because our goal is to be able to help them integrate into a classroom setting, whether they're dealing with hearing issues, and they're not able to necessarily be in a setting where there can be a lot of talk around them without being able to focus. From a speech standpoint, it's really just that basic communication, being able to talk about what they're feeling, what they might be going through. And it's a part of that learning process. And we see that line carry over, I should say, into adulthood. So, hearing loss can affect people in their work environments. It can affect people just in normal conversations with their loved ones, or in an environment, let's say you go out to dinner with friends, and being able to really understand what happens when people aren't able to communicate and participate like that. You start to retreat, right? You start to move back a little bit because you kind of smile. You're not quite sure what was said. You don't want to say the wrong thing as a response. So this is a way for people to really be able to come out of that shell and be able to experience those things. And I always say for, a parent or a grandparent, I couldn't imagine not being able to hear my child or my grandchild say something as simple as "I love you." But we have people that aren't able to do that. I've experienced it as a child who went through a lot of speech therapy. The frustrations that you feel because what you're trying to say, but people can't understand, what it is that you're doing. I think the other challenging thing where it really started to bring a lot of light to people was during COVID the last couple of years. Because with masks, right, the masks were a barrier for people to either be able to speak in a clear tone, but more so to be able to hear what was being said. And I think that's what really started getting a lot of people who maybe wouldn't self-diagnose themselves as having an issue to start realize. Because I'd say, probably 60% of the people that come through our doors for hearing tests, it's not because they notice something. It's because their family member, right, their spouse or their children are saying, I think you need to go get a hearing test, because they can't figure out if it's selective hearing that they're doing or if they have an issue. And I think COVID really started to bring that to light for a lot of people as well. So.
Yeah, that's great. What would you say are some of the early and current intervention options?
Well, I think there's so many, and it really depends on what the need is. And that's one of the things, for us as a not-for-profit, our main goal is to work with every person individually to what their needs are, because everybody has a different one. You might have a different level of hearing loss or a different level of needs for occupational or speech therapy. So it's really evaluating what that is and then being able to work on things with people. From a hearing standpoint, I think a lot of people get scared because they think if I go there, they're going to try and sell me a hearing aid. And that's not what we do. Our goal is to try and keep people, if they don't need the technology, from having to go into it, but helping them with ways that they can actually retain their current levels of hearing loss so they don't get worse. And some of it is job related. And most people think, that it's strictly for people that might work in a factory, or if they, work around in a loud environment like an airport, or if they work as an ENT or a fireman where there's a lot of experiences. But that's not really the case. It can really happen in every environment because we're all being exposed to different problems with hearing loss. So for us, it's about detecting where somebody's levels are by doing a simple hearing screening. Doesn't hurt, with one of our certified audiologists and doctors of audiology. But then what is it that we can do to help them retain the current level that they have? And if somebody's not a candidate for hearing aids, we're not trying to get them into hearing aids. Our job isn't to sell somebody that. Maybe with some of the commercial agencies, it's like that, but not for us. It's really trying to help them retain what they have currently. So I think there's a lot of different therapies available that way. Same thing with, with the speech and with the kids, there's different things that different children learn differently. So some of them are more visual that they're using. Some are hands-on, especially, if it's occupational therapy that they have. So we have a lot of everything from toys to tools to quiet rooms, whatever it's going to do to help elevate the level of, their treatment to the next place.
I see. Oh, interesting. So are there any of course there are, what advances have you seen in speech, language and hearing services since the start of your career?
Well, I've only been with the agency for 2 years. So, even in 2 years, there's been such an advancement, especially if you look at the technology. But the technology that we're able to have to test people with. So it could be something with if somebody has an audio processing disorder, where necessarily they can't sit in a room with headphones on. There's different equipment that will help us to be able to do the testing. From the hearing aid side, I think you look at the advancements in the size of the hearing aids. If you think about it, they're a machine, right? They all have computer chips in them, but now they have them where they're Bluetooth compatible. So if you're wearing hearing aids, you can have them hooked up to your telephone. You can have them hooked up to your iPad. So you're not having to take them out when you're dealing, because you've got feedback and different issues. So I think size and also the ability of the technology and there's all sorts of bells and whistles that people can get, but if they don't need that, then we're there to help them with it. But I think it just makes it much easier. They're not big clunky where there's a big, people are hesitant because they feel that there's a stigma about wearing hearing aids. There's a lot of the aids that fit right into the ear right now. So they're very low profile for people. So, and they come in a lot of different colors, which the kids especially love.
Yeah, that's great. Make it fun. What the heck,
Absolutely.
Like a jewelry. So as you look back at the history over the last 100 years, what would you say is the biggest accomplishment of Rochester Hearing and Speech Center? So it may be even before the time that you had joined the organization, but what would you say is like the biggest accomplishment of the
I'd have to say the number of people whose lives we've been a part of, just hundreds of thousands of people over 100 years. I think the fact that we are also constantly evolving and growing as an agency and helping to fill those niches where there might be a need for people in the community that no one else is available to provide those services. And we're constantly reevaluating that and saying, if there's somebody that needs something, how can we help them? And if we can't, being able to work with some of our other partners to make that happen. So I think overall, just the fact that we're around for 100 years and we're hearing the stories of the people who say, you've changed my life.
That's beautiful. That's great. And what growth do you hope to see in the years to come?
Well, I think our growth is in the ability to serve more people. We've done things like adding additional testing booths in some of our locations. And, who knows, I'd love to see us have a fourth location. That we're able to be out there and serving people with. And I think ultimately it's about, there's always going to be that need. How can we fill that void for people?
That's great. That's wonderful. Well, more power. Congratulations again on the 100th anniversary of Rochester Hearing and Speech Center, Bob. We're so glad that you're there at the helm and helping the organization celebrate. So thank you for joining us. And thank you for watching us today. My guest again is Bob Russell, President CEO of the Rochester Hearing and Speech Center. I'm Nanette Nokan. It's about money. Until next time.